you better run because he wasn't going to be pretty.
He will catch me.
He was vigilant when it comes to water wastage. So we're in 2025 now, and apparently the resources have run dry.
Yes. You know, when I was growing up, some of my first few trips was to St. Martin. And I can remember, I mean, I was a child, so I didn't really take it that seriously. I can remember the lady that we were staying with, and I could hear her telling my mother, make sure that Shani don't run the water too long and that kind of thing. And you didn't understand, and don't run the pipe when you're brushing your teeth. And it seems like we're here. But I don't think that it happened overnight. It had to be years of neglect in terms of our infrastructure, mismanagement, and ensuring, even now with the rationing of the water, ensuring that there is good, proper public awareness in terms of when it will happen, for how long. Because you hear the cries almost every day. Oh, water gone again. This is a weekend. I can't wash my child clothes. I have to cook. And sometimes they try. I can see the ministry, their attempts. But sometimes it is without notice. And sometimes it is for days on end. I mean, in the Shadwell area, I know for one time we were out of water for 14 days.
What?
14 days at that. I thought it was crazy. I thought this was COVID lockdown.
That's crazy.
But I can remember that at that point my tank was not connected, and so it had to be storage because there was nothing that I had to pump the water into the house. And I can remember we were on our last day of storage before having to go and at that point we didn't have anybody coming to give us water. And so you hear the cries of persons. How does this help a mother with a baby? How does this help businesses in terms of, especially those who cook? And you don't even have to cook. You have a staff. They want to be able to use the bathroom facilities with some ease of access without having to worry about, what is going to happen after. And that would also affect the businesses who have to use the water for their services. That will affect their income. It would also maybe cause them to close, and maybe their employees lose a day pay. The schools, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure if it was this term, January or September, where the Baskier High School and I think it was Beach Allen.
Sent a notice out.
Yeah, there was no water. You have a school with hundreds of children, and that is a problem. Sometimes you go, I'm not sure how often the water goes by your side, Laverne, but I can remember going to Beauty Inside Out, which is on that stretch, and they had no water at one point in time. They need the water to do their pedicures and their manicures.
So it affects business and profitability.
This is what shocked me last week. A client came to me for another issue, but she works in the hemodialysis unit, and the machine that they use to, I guess, purify the blood and all that was running low on water.
Oh.
And so they had to tell some of these patients that they're going to have to stop the process for this day, because it will mean that they will not be able to carry out the process and purify the blood. And you know what that can mean for somebody who's on dialysis?
That's
so
crazy.
if our present health institution, the main, is being affected, our citizens, man, if you're not looking after the health of your nation, you sometimes wonder, like, what is happening? Are they really concerned? Is it that they feel that they have done enough to say that we have gotten water in Keon? Even that water, Laverne, I mean, I've heard some of the concerns.
At our listening tour.
The color of the water, whether it's healthy to drink,
the taste.
even to bathe with. That means people have to buy bottled water to bathe to bathe with, to cook with.
That's another
That,
expense.
I mean, you're
Crazy.
paying $20 in some instances for water, but then you have to buy $5 the 5 liter gallon of water to do things other than drinking.
Yeah.
That is something that we really have to look at. And you know, someone was speaking to me. I was a bit young that in this instance, but I read the 1995 manifesto, and I saw that Sir Ken and his team, they had actually secured funding. I think it was about $17 million for the Kuwaiti water project.
Drinking water project, yeah.
And in 2000, the Labour Party boasted about, you know, doing different wells in different areas of St. Kitts. But this was as a result of the hard work and the commitment that our party, because we think water is important.
It is. Water impacts the quality of life and living. In fact, I had some notes here of some of the things that in since in the 80s up to the 90s, before PAM demitted office, did with respect to water. And I'm glad you mentioned the Kuwaiti project was a major project that made sure that a lot of areas in St. Kitts had potable water. But even so, they also had expansion of groundwater wells, construction of storage reservoir. PAM in the 80s and 90s developed pumping stations, enhancement of the water treatment facilities, rehabilitation of the water distribution network. So yes, there was a lot of work that was done to ensure that the water supply in St. Kitts was consistent, it was safe, understanding that water that is potable and water that is of good quality also means water that could help to improve the quality of life.
Yes.
Because you just said, highlighted some of the challenges with scarcity of water. And I want us to go over them one by one. Because, and I know you kind of said them on the fly, but the impact of the lack of good water is not something I think that we're taking seriously. So looking at the impact on residents, we know about people's health and their hygiene.
Yes.
We know that if people don't wash their hands properly after they use the bathroom, that all sorts of diarrhea and or, you know, those kind of skin infections and all those things can happen. When water disrupts your daily life, could you imagine? You could barely maybe send your children to school, but when they come back home, how are you going to cook a meal for them? How are you going to wash their clothes? How are they going to use the bathroom?
Yes.
I mean, when you push families to buy water to do these things, you are in fact causing them to spend money that already they don't have. And so, you know, I think we are the electorate has become quiet about these kinds of issues, but it is, I think we are under severe stress about the consistent quality and availability of water. Even when I think you were making the point when you heard the last time about how water affects agriculture.
Yes.
I think you said you were in conversation with some farmers who said that they were having a major challenge.
And I mean, food security is something that we saw.
Touting.
Yes. And you know, this 25 by 25 agenda. So how are the farmers supposed to operate with inadequate water supply? And you know, sometimes I hear on the program, sometimes I hear persons from the Ministry of Agriculture speaking about sometimes too much water can kill the crops, and sometimes if you don't give them daily some crops, then they start to get certain diseases. They're not healthy enough for our people to eat. So we are killing the core of our society when water is drying up. Now, we understand climate change and all these things, but the government has a responsibility to put certain measures in place to alleviate some of what our people are experiencing. Now, you could understand that, okay, we don't have the amount of rainfall that we once had, but what measures are being in place? Because, I mean, there's a rainy season and there's a dry season. what measures are being put in place for our rainy season to save and ensure that we can, secure some of that water for other uses, whether it is for farmers, whether it is to be able, you carry out all the necessary cleansing so that it's sufficient enough to help with some of the lack that we have. And I don't think as a government they are doing a proper job in terms of not just educating our people, but informing them so that they can put certain things in place. Now I know that there was what you call it now, the tanks. There was a distribution of the
But
tanks.
even that was political.
I was just about to say that, because those who in need, did they get? Did they get? Did some persons get more than one?
They have not even been set up until this time.
Exactly, because you're not having that constant flow of water into your house, or maybe some persons can't afford
the connection that are required to set them up.
So, did it solve the problem, or did it fatten someone's pocket?
Maybe the latter. You're right. I think this government's Achilles heel is its lack of communication. And this is not a perfect world. This is not utopia. There would be problems along the way. But sometimes it is important to let people know, look, this is the difficulty that we're experiencing. Until we get it sorted out, we recommend you do X, Y, and Z. But we're not hearing about the houses. We're not hearing about issues with people who were paying for the land. I mean, this government needs to employ somebody who can communicate all of these. I don't find something to tell people. There's just too many things happening without the public fully understanding what is going on.
If I didn't need you, Laverne, I'd tell you apply for the job. Apply for the job.
Well, I mean, when we talk about sustainable means that you have to wear red. And so if you don't wear red, you can't, you'll go hungry. So they won't take me on.
It's unfortunate. It's
Very
unfortunate because
if you're talking about a sustainable island state, you really must also think about your human capacity.
Exactly.
And your human resources. And in islands, all we have are our people. We don't have any. Certainly, I don't know that we have any gold and any copper anywhere to mine. But of course, if you can't invest in your people and you can't incorporate your people into your sustainability plan, or if you're only using 50% of the people, then it means that me and you must suffer and languish somewhere. But God is love.
He is, and he's not going to let our people suffer. He's not going to let our people suffer. Sometimes, we go through rough patches, but when you look back and you see what you had, and then when you come out of the rough patch and you see, you compare. It's like chalk to cheese. You wonder, why did I make this error? But you're going to write. St.Kitts Nevis is going to write the one.
Of course. And as we wind up the conversation, and we talk about the impact on business, because the impact on the lack of water and the impact it has on business is not to be sneezed at. We have hotels that have pool. They have to do laundry. They have to, some hotels have restaurants. Could you imagine not having water? I think I heard a guest on Deputy Political Leader Gom's show a few weeks ago saying that he was staying at a particular hotel in Frigate Bay, and they were told that they will have to use bottled water for the shower. Now, when he said that, me being this pro-kitchen and the vision woman, I was most embarrassed. It really embarrassed me because I've heard about stories about people having to use bottled water in hotels in other islands, but I did not think, never in my wildest imagination would I have imagined that it would happen to us in St. Kitts.
Laverne, I did not hear the gentleman, but I experienced it. Because you know that we had that training the other day somewhere, and I was afforded a room, and when I checked in, that's one of the things that they told me.
Oh.
The water may go, so you may have to use bottled water.
That is, That's I don't know. It's
And so now that you're saying it, I said
Yeah,
maybe that's the
yeah.
hotel, but then again, it's on the
It
same.
was the hotel. That was the same hotel.
Wow.
No, how does a guest feel when you tell them that? I mean, the thing is, we got to understand that water is one of those things that spur development. You need water for construction, you need water in the hotel, you need water for manufacturing. Take the breweries. Now the breweries is heavily dependent on water to cool their systems, for the actual product and all of that.
Yes.
And so if we can't get water, then you just made the point. If one day the brewers show up and there's no water, they have to go home.
That is true.
They have to go home. And so we really have to find a way to solve post haste this water issue.
And the majority of our people can't afford to lose a day pay.
Not in this guava crop.
They can't afford.
Not in this triangulation economy.
Some employers might say, okay, I will pay you still, but maybe some persons can't really afford
it. Exactly. So we really have to look at long-term solutions, and perhaps desalination is the way to go. And I'm aware, that the government has started some work. I mean, I don't know if they stopped because we have not seen any progress report in recent times. But we are aware that a desalination plant, construction for plants started. But one of the other things that we want to highlight where that is concerned politically, we were talking earlier about the fact that these plants utilize a lot of energy. And so we're hoping that not only is the desalination plant constructed, but it would be powered by some form of renewable energy so that it doesn't put more strain on another utility that is under stress. That would need a whole other show to talk about.
Because you fix the issue with the water, but then the burden comes on our people with the energy.
Exactly. So and I mean, again, we cannot grow an island. We cannot grow our economy if we are having challenges with those resources, with water and electricity. It is impossible. I mean, who is going to come here and say put down a factory on the industrial side if your power supply is not reliable and if your water is non-existent?
They might as well pack up shop. But
exactly,
as you said, investment is something that persons would really want to see in the country. And having had persons in our team before, our administration, understand the need and the importance of water and electricity, that is something that we can seek some of the guidance from our forefathers and ensure that investment is something that would not be hindered as a result of unreliable water and electricity. And so I am, hopeful that the people of St. Kitts Nevis would see this administration for what it is, and they will see an alternative going forward in the People's Action Movement.
There's nothing left for me to say but amen. Because, sometimes when you sit down and you examine what is happening around you, you say, it can't get worse than this. It really can't get worse than this. I don't know, even if you put a bunch of novices in government headquarters tomorrow, it can't get worse than this. And so, in the meantime, we'll continue to pray and be hopeful that things will change. But surely the government owes a lot of explanation.
A lot.
To the electorate about its underperformance, where land and housing is concerned, where water is concerned, where electricity is concerned. And if these things cannot be answered, then the electorate has the answer in 2027.
Yes.
And I don't think they'd like the answer.
Well, we would.
Well, we certainly would. We certainly would. And if you ask me, I think it's even too late for redemption. Well, spiritually speaking, redemption is never too late. But politically speaking, this redemption is certainly too late. And on that note, political leader, and except you want to say something really very
Well,
quickly?
I mean,
So
we have addressed some important pillars of our society, and the People's Action Movement will continue to champion the cause of our people. I mean, just today, my deputies and I met, and we discussed these same issues. And so, going forward, you will hear more from the People's Action Movement on the issues that touch and concern our people. And very soon, we know that you will see us in a different light, in a different capacity, but we are all about people, and you will never be left behind.
thank you so much. And we are planning a series of perspectives that would really call into question some of the shortcomings of this government. We want to look in depth at electricity. We want to examine very shortly whether or not the obsolescence has taken over the network. Is it aging so much that it can't take the load? I mean, every week there's electricity outage. I was saved personally the other day by the device that I had my fridge plugged into. Because if it weren't for that, I would have lost the fridge. A fridge these days is nearly cost as much as a car. So I am glad I had the device, my fridge plugged into this device, else I would have had to
Go and buy a fridge.
go and buy a new fridge. And really, this is just one story, but this story can be replicated across communities, across homes, almost on a daily basis. I know the poor people in Sandy Point, every day or every week they experience some sort of outage. So we have a lot to fix in this country. And I want to say to you who are listening this evening that the team of the People's Action Movement is pretty capable of fixing. We are working assiduously behind the scenes to put a lot of these things right when we get into office. You hear me mention earlier on about the case study for Singapore and the housing. This is something that our team is going to seriously drill down into. We're going to look for best practices across the region and further afield, because I believe in not reinventing the wheel. So if we find best practices that we think could serve us well based on our scale, our size, and other circumstances, we certainly are going to do what is required now, so that when we get into office, we would hit the ground running. We want to thank you so much, so very much, for joining us this evening. We want to ask you to spread the word about this program and come back next week to hear what other issue we would be championing for you. We want to remind you before we go that this program is funded by viewers and listeners locally and across the diaspora. If you care to send us a sponsorship for one of these shows, please contact me via email, pamproskn@gmail.com, or any of our executives, and let us know how you are prepared to support us. Remember, we even accept the widow's mite. I referred to the lady many weeks ago who brought $5 in an envelope and said that this was for Perspective. One full basket, and we are grateful for any amount. Thank you so much for viewing, and we'll see you again next time on another edition of Perspectives.
We love to serve our country that God has blessed so well. In peace and love and happiness, we will forever dwell. We ask for God's protection and guidance on our way. The People's Action Movement will strive from day to day. The People's Action Movement